Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or whatever time this stream is finding you. Welcome to Recover the Ball with your grateful and gracious host, Cowboy Chris. I am Cowboy Chris, and this is Recovering the Ball. This is the first episode of many to come. I'm just so excited. I'm a little nervous. Y'all might can tell, but it doesn't matter. This is going to be a family fun show. And I want to give you a little bit of a backdrop of how this came to be. I'm a big Dallas Cowboys fan. I soak up all the content that's on the internet. I mean, it started out by watching, the three-letter networks, your ESPNs, your Foxes, and all of them. And then I started consuming a lot of Cowboys content on your YouTubes and DallasCowboys.com and places like that. And because that's what I like to do in my downtime. I'm a big football fan. I'm a big Cowboys fan. And also, one of my passions and one of my purposes is I'm a certified recovery coach. And so I deal with a lot of people in recovery. And that's a big, I have a lot of fun doing that, just engaging with people and help them sustain the road of recovery that they're on. And then it just came on like a light bulb one day. What if I combine the two? Meeting at that intersection of healing, hope, and having a good time. That's what really came to me. And I said, hey, we could talk Dallas Cowboys, talk junk, go back and forth. I'll bring some people that love the Dallas Cowboys like me on the show. And for the second half of the show, I bring on somebody that has that same passion for recovery. And when we talk recovery, this is going to be an all recovery network. We're talking recovery from illness and injury. We're talking recovery from substance use. And the granddaddy of them all, we're talking about recovering your vision, your purpose, and your dreams. And so that was the concept of the show that came to me, and I'm just so glad to, be kicking it off today. I'm really excited, and so what I want to do is introduce my first guest, who is the first Cowboy star for this first episode. She is an entrepreneur, a philanthropist. She is the founder and CEO of Class Act Productions, and also the founder and CEO of Vision and Purpose Media Productions, where Recover the Ball is being recorded. And so, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, I want to give a big, warm RTB welcome to Karen McConnell Jones. Welcome to the show, Karen.
Hey, Chris. Recover the Ball with Cowboy Chris. I'm loving it.
Yes.
We are here.
Yes, I'm so excited. I'm so happy to have you. And, a big reason why I had you on the show is because you share that passion for the silver and blue just like me.
Oh, yeah.
And so, one of my first questions is, before we get into the other segments of the show,
yes,
is when did you first become a Cowboy fan, or how did you get enraptured with the silver and blue?
Okay, yes. I got to say, when I was a little girl, in the house, I was raised by a single parent. My mom, you better not disturb her when the football game on, okay? And it just embodying me now. So everybody know on Sunday, don't even think about it. I'm not answering no phone. I'm not answering no calls, no texts. If you're not texting me or calling me about football, I'm not talking on Sundays, okay?
I know that's right.
Coming up in my house, my mom was just a Cowboy fan. We from North Carolina, so back in that time, we didn't have the expansion team. We didn't have the Panthers.
Right,
so mostly everybody from the South just kind of started liking the Cowboys. That's what we had. So my mom, was just a diehard Cowboy fan. So it just made me a diehard Cowboy fan.
Right, nice,
so
nice.
I just love it. I just love my Cowboys. I'm just ride or die. I'm just a Cowboy fan. It's just in me. It's in my blood. Always a fan.
Same here,
yeah.
same here.
So even once years later when we got the expansion team, I couldn't switch. By then,
you was already reeled in. So you had to go through the highs, and you've been going through the highs and lows.
Yes,
got to stay low. I definitely get that.
Yes, I'm telling you now. So I'm just a Cowboy fan through and through. I just love them. American team. What can you say? They be trying to take it away from us here and there, Chris. And switch it up. But we go always be the American team. Okay.
That's funny that you share that, because it's my mother's a big reason why I'm a Cowboy fan, even though she's not a Cowboy fan.
Okay.
The story goes is I was I must have been 6 or 7 years old, and she was watching the Cowboys play, but she was playing her work pool, so she needed the Cowboys to score, some extra points so she could, win the pool money.
Right.
But when I saw her, and I was at that age, I was a young boy, and I was just getting into sports and getting into football. And I was like, oh, I got to have a team. I need to pick me a team. I said, what team? What am I ride with and whatnot? And at that time, who we now know as the Commanders, I grew up in the DMV. Also, I was born in New York, so I could have been a Giant fan too and whatnot. Right. NFC East was all around me and whatnot.
Right, exactly.
But when I saw her rooting for the Cowboys, I was like, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to ride with my mom. She a Cowboy fan. I'm going to be a Cowboy fan too.
Yeah.
But then after the game was over, I went over to her and she was like, I ain't no Cowboy fan, Chris. She said, I'm a Steeler fan. She said, but if that's your team, you rock out with the Cowboys. And, in that moment, it was interesting. She kind of helped me to be my own person. You know what I mean? She said, if that's what you riding with, you go ahead and ride with that, Chris. And so I said, well, you know what? I'm going to ride with the Cowboys. And so, I just stuck with them ever since. Got to see, some of the Super Bowls of the 70s and the 90s. I've been riding with them. And it's been a long time, but, I'm still rocking with them. So, just like you, my mom was a big influence on me. And I also got to shout out my pops, rest in peace. He's the one that really got me into understanding the nuances of sports, you know, and being able to – I really never could really understand how we would be on trips and he'd be listening to games on the radio, and just – following sports. And then sometimes he wouldn't like a team because he didn't like the coach or, he understood, he helped me to understand the nuances of the game and the game behind the game. You know what I'm saying? It was just more than what we saw on the field. There was a lot of things at play. And so I always appreciate his love for me and him turning me on to sports the way he did. So, family's a big part of football and loving sports anyway. Yes. So, I understand what you're talking about, how you got caught up with the silver and blue just like me.
Yeah, definitely.
Indeed.
And but it's funny that your mom said she was, you found out she was a Steelers fan because back in that day, that was the rivalry in Super Bowl, Dallas and the Pittsburgh.
Yes, as a Cowboy fan.
Yes,
some of them Super Bowls going up against the Steelers, man, has had a lot of heartache.
Yes. But but it made for good football.
It made for good football. Good trash talk, and just, at the end of the day, we still family, still was all love at the end of the day,
That's what it got to be. Indeed. I like that, meeting at the intersection of what?
Healing, hope, and having a good time.
Yes, that's indeed. What we about to do.
When I start talking about the show, I start throwing up the X, I kept saying the intersection, and then Dez had the, he would throw up the X, and then, we got Wakanda forever always.
Yes.
As well and whatnot. That? So, so let's go ahead and get into this Cowboy section of the show. One of the things a concept I came up with in creating the show is down and distance. And that's where we talk about sort of like a big picture view of where the Cowboys are and, where things stand right now. And, it's funny when we were supposed to shoot on that Monday after the playoff game. And I was like, when we come in that Monday, we're going to take care of Green Bay and, I'm going to say it's second and goal, you know what I mean? And, because, the season ain't over yet. We're going to be rocking on. And then after that debacle that was happening to us last Sunday, for this down and distance, the theme, I just say, I can't say nothing else but game over. You know what I mean? That was kind of hard. That was kind of hard to take, Give me some insight. Well, what were your feelings after that game?
Yeah, it's hard pill to swallow, but always a fan, So,
always.
But just expose what I already knew, So basically, when me and you was talking about this, I always said that, for me, Dallas have not played consistent. You got to play consistent football throughout the year. For when you get to the playoff, you in sync. They was not in sync. They got stung. They didn't have an answer on either side of the ball. On the offense or the defense. And you can't win. Playoffs like that. And then, but to take it a step further, that's the players didn't have an answer. On both sides. Defense wasn't doing anything. Offense, but then you got to take it to that next level. Why was that? That the coaching. So the coaching was all out of sight. They didn't have any answers, how to have the guys to adjust. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then if you want to go up, the coordinator offense, the defense, coordinator. So, go all the way. Nobody had.
We know they're gonna run the ball. Exactly. How are you gonna have the safeties too high in the back?
Exactly.
Come on, you got to bring it down some and stop that run.
Man, they was like a deer in headlights.
That's what it seemed like. They was like really nervous. After the game, I was real emotional. I was just like, I was ready to blow this thing up. It's like how, Dak, I was frustrated with him. I go back and forth with Dak. I'm a Dak supporter always. I feel like, I was glad he was able to step in when Romo went down. But, as time's gone on, each year he's gotten better. But it's just seemed like when we get to the playoffs and the lights are bright, I don't know if he gets a little nervous or what that is. But, and one of the things I can say from consuming a lot of content, shout out to the YouTube creators who watch film, because they made me a smarter fan, honestly.
Right.
And just kind of showed me how, a lot of times, when we're watching it on the TV, we can't see some of them angles where, you realize that it's not entirely his fault or he didn't have nowhere to go. Because when I was watching the game, I was like, it seemed like our receivers didn't come to play, or they were out of sync in a lot of ways. You know what I mean?
It's just everybody. They didn't have an
and
answer.
I was like, what's going on? What's going on? It's like, we had everything laid out for us. We the 2 seed.
Yeah.
We at home.
Yes.
There shouldn't be no excuses, and then we just laid a dud. You know what I mean? And I was like, I wanted to blame Dak. I wanted to blow it up. Didn't want Mike McCarthy to come back. Too late for that, because I don't know if you heard. He's coming on back to join us. But most of all, I was really mad at our defense. We talked a lot all year about how elite this defense was, but we saw those holes. We saw how they were susceptible to the run game. You know what I mean? And I was like, they showed itself right there in the playoffs. When it's playoff time, it's the playoffs are a different animal, and you're gonna get tested for all that weakness that you showed during the year. And it just seemed like we didn't adjust.
Yeah, like I said, we just didn't have an answer for it. We never made the adjustment. And then kind of when I playing devil advocate here is both sides for the defense right now. But right off right from the start, it's just like when you go in, we had them. They was third and long. This was just the opening. The opening, they had the ball. The third and long. I mean, the best that we can have them in.
Right.
Best position, and then we got a penalty.
Yeah.
And
from
it
one of our stars. You know what I mean?
Yes.
From D-Law.
Oh
you're saying like, okay, those are the people that you need to be doing right in that situation.
And then we just went downhill from there, because we stopped them at third and long, and then here come a penalty.
Right.
And then after that, they went down the drive and scored on us, know. And so I was just like, oh man. So and then if you look at it, if you getting we had 3-4 penalties within the first 3-4 minutes of the game. That's not good. The penalties hurt us, and I think that was just nerves. Again, we didn't know how to adjust. And for me, the players, they start unraveling a little bit, and they're showing their emotion on the team. On the field.
A lot of commentators were talking about that. It seemed like we were
You start showing
we lose our mojo and just felt defeated sooner than we had to, because it was still a game.
Exactly, it was still a game. You at home, and I'm just gonna just go in a little bit on that, because I love him, through and through. But if nothing else, being in the leadership position myself, and this is something I had to learn. You cannot, even in the downest time or in a challenging time, you cannot, as a leader, beat up on your team out in public in front of everybody. He went to
when he was getting CDs in.
Yeah, that was so uncalled for. You can't do that, because you know what you do.
And the coach went over there and talked to CD.
Yeah, exactly. The coach kind of had to go pat on, because what you do, you shutting your receiver down there, because you are in his head, and you shut him down. He ain't coming in your face when you kept throwing all them interceptions. So why you gonna beat him up because he wasn't catching the ball? You know what I'm saying? Look, I break it down. I'm telling the truth. I'm here to tell the truth, and that's just how it is. In leadership, you cannot do that. I mean, he got in CD head. That CD like God. You know what I'm saying? And when you already, when the coaches and everybody else in the upper room ain't got no answers, and then you on the field beating up on each other. I mean, we was doomed before we even really gave ourselves a chance. So you can't do that. So if nothing else, I hope nothing else, Dak's got to realize he's the seasonal one on here too, on his team. And and he the head. So nothing else, when time get challenging, you just gotta show up every time. You cannot pass the buck and pass the blame. You got to show up every time, because you know what? If you keep showing up and you keep having that hurrah in you, then guess what? Then then your players going to do the
They're
same.
gonna follow. Yep.
Right. They're going to follow suit,
Say,
you know.
remember the Titans, leadership dictate character follow leadership, something like that.
Yes,
yeah.
That was my favorite movie.
Oh,
Remember
really?
the Titans.
Okay.
Oh, come on now.
Yeah.
Anything sports, I like
Yes,
that.
indeed.
Yes,
Indeed.
yes. So,
Yeah. So now it's like, weeks gone by, we were able to settle our emotions a little bit and really see where we are as a team.
Yes.
So what do you think about, Jerry deciding to bring Mike back? You think
So you know what? I know everybody was like, somebody need to be fired, but I'm going to be a real true fan about it. What needs to happen is Jerry need to step back himself and not be the general manager. So no, I don't think he should have got fired. You know what I'm saying? Because in that moment, it just wasn't him. Like I said, it's just a trickle down effect on everybody. You can't just put it on the coach. The people up in the big room, they looking down. Hey, you ain't even had no answer to give to him.
Right.
Because sometimes when the coaches are off, usually when the head coach is off, then the coordinator coach will come and say, look, this is what we need to do. They kind of help him out. But nobody helped him out, So, of course, the head coach is going to take all the hit, when it's not going down.
Right.
Like
we were talking about before.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to take most of those hits.
You're going to take the hit, but I can't just sit here and put it all on him. The rest of the coaches around him ain't had no answer either. Wasn't nobody able to say anything.
Dan Quinn.
Come
Dwayne
on now.
Quinn.
And then, and then like you said, for me, I just think, we got some things to work out. We got some things we need to figure out. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt. I'm kind of like where you are initially, because even when I watched that game, when I went in order, I went, when I was playing the blame game, I said, first I was looking at Dan Quinn side eye, because it's like, even if we would have been scoring, it seemed like our defense couldn't stop a nose from running, you know what I mean? And then I went, and I was looking at Dak and the players, I'll say, you know what I mean? Because, then I looked at Mike, because I feel like Mike really put everybody in a good position, to be successful, and he tries his best. But, when you're looking at, the offsides penalties, and, people want to say that's coaching, but I'm like, D. Law's a seasoned vet, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even when on the kickoff, when the guy ran into the, the punt return and won that Sam Williams, I was like, people going to look at Mike, but I was like, how do you control that? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly,
you can be on players, but he's one of your best. You need him out there. So, my emotions settled down, and I'm not so mad, but I'm glad it's not an extension. I feel like he's done well and he's improved this year, but, it's show improved now. So I don't mind him bringing him back, because he's definitely helped Dak improve his game.
Right.
So I'm feeling like, all right, we can run this back one more year. And what I do like about Mike McCarthy is he's not afraid to adjust.
Oh yeah.
He don't. He have his homeboys there that was there when the defense was trash. He had no problems getting rid of them. He has no problem, making that pivot like leaders need to do. When it's not working, you got to be able to make that change when it's time, so that you can adjust and achieve that success that you're trying to achieve.
Exactly.
I'm not so, upset with them, bringing Mike back. I think that's a good call, and I think we'll be able to, make some adjustment on this off season and whatnot.
Yeah, we're gonna make some adjustment. And you know what? And our defense is still good. And one thing I always say when people say your defense suck and they didn't come and show up or whatever, yeah, somewhat true. It was just nerves on all sides, both sides for us. But after a while, the defense is only as good as the offense. If you out there 1, 2, 3 out, 1, 2, 3 out, you're keeping your defense on the field too long. You know what I'm saying? And you throwing in, you're giving turnover. You put your defense out there, and they not getting a break. So they got nerves, you got nerves, but they on the field longer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so,
indeed.
they get wore out. Come on. And then, once they see, that they was out of sack, they ain't giving us chance to, let our men go out and call in.
Themselves.
So they kept catching us. They wasn't letting us change on the defense. They was hurrying up on us. They knew what to do. We just, some days, you win, you lose some. They had our number.
They picked a bad day to have a bad day.
Bad day to have a bad day. But always a fan.
Always a fan.
Always
I think this
fan.
Offseason, we like you said, there's some things that we need to adjust and need to look at. And so what I really like to see us do is to get to that run game, address that.
Yes.
we're not sure if Dan Quinn's going to come back, and so that's a question. So we'll see what our defense is going to do, because we definitely need to do some adjustments there. And I like to see let's get some big body boys like in the linebacker position, and beef up the defensive line some, and get a center. I think we need a big boy at the center too.
Right.
Dress the line, do the linebackers, and I think we'll be in good shape moving forward. And and adjust the scheme. What I'd really like to see us do also is get somebody from that Kyle Shanahan tree, so we can learn how to address that offense, because it seems like people that fall from that coaching tree, from the San Fran, Mike LaFleur, he's part of the Shanahan tree, and it seems like we have difficulties with those with those teams. It's like Green Bay and San Fran just seem to have our number every time. So I like to see us get somebody on our staff that knows how to address something like that and whatnot. So
yeah. And so, but the playoffs, first rounds anyway, it was the week of upsets. So and at this point, I'm rooting for the underdogs, just for we won't have that, hopefully the same thing in the Super Bowl. It's nice to see the switch up, because if anybody would have said Philly would have lost, ain't nobody think that Philly was going to.
Philly been looking bad the last month and see. I thought they was.
Well, but
I thought they might pull it together for the playoffs.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I was like, I'm kind of glad they didn't.
No, of course I'm glad they didn't. But you know what I'm saying. By them being the Super Bowl, had been in the Super Bowl last year, we thought they was going to do a little something, but they got sent home. Nobody thought the Browns was going to lose. I mean, it was just a lot of upsets. A lot of surprises. I like that better. A lot of surprises last week. But at the end of the day, I can't wait to this round of it all.
We got Texas. You think Texas can put up a fight against the Ravens?
Hey, I'm not. Last week before the playoffs started, I would have straight up said, "Oh yeah, they Ravens got this." But the way that week went, we gonna see.
I had C.J. Stroud in my fantasy league, so he did me some. He did well this year, so I know what he can do. So I wouldn't be surprised if he go out there.
You got the 49ers and Green Bay, and then
another first year started with Jordan Love, so maybe he can go out there and do to them what he did to us.
But that's how it always be, though. The team that beat you, then they turn around and lose the next one. You be like,
Right. Yeah, I was thinking in my family pick'em. We have a pick'em league.
Right.
And so I wanted to pick. I said, well, maybe Green Bay go ahead and take care of San Fran, so I don't have to hear San Fran noise, fans, in my ear and whatnot.
Right.
But I was like, no, I'm trying to win this thing here. Let me go with who I think is actually going to win and whatnot.
Right.
And so I picked San Fran. But like you say, you never know. You can be surprised and whatnot.
Yes.
So Karen, I want to thank you for coming on, being part of this first segment.
Yes.
And you're going to be a part of my second segment too. So, I appreciate a lot of what you're doing out here in the community as well, helping me kick off Recover the Ball for this first segment. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to continue to stick with Recover the Ball before we go to this commercial. Remember, we come on the second and fourth Monday of every month, and come right back after these messages for Recover the Ball. Stick with us. Back to new cadence. Here we go. That's going viral the whole nine. So you're now rocking with Cowboy Chris and Recover the Ball, where we're going to be talking football. We're going to talk recovery and being at that intersection of healing, hope, and having a good time, folks. I want you to give me 15 minutes and then give me the last 15 minutes and then check out at least 3 episodes, and I'm sure you'll be convinced that this is the show that you want to rock with great Cowboys content. We're going to be talking recovery, we're going to talk in life, because, in life, we're trying to not only, root on our teams, and we're not only talking about recovery from substance abuse, we're talking about recovery. There's a lot of people out there trying to recover their dreams, trying to recover that hope, trying to recover that purpose, and we're going to do that here on Recover the Ball with Cowboy Chris. I'm going to have great guests, like my great guest I have here now, Karen. She's going to rock with me, and we're going to be doing great things here at Recover the Ball with Cowboy Chris. Tune in. Welcome back to Recover the Ball with Cowboy Chris. I am your grateful and gracious host, Cowboy Chris, excuse me. And we are into our second segment of Recover the Ball. And like I said in the first half of the show, one of my passions and purpose is I'm a certified recovery coach. So I help people in all forms of recovery. That's recovery from illness and injury. That's recovery from substance use. And a big thing and a big proponent of people recovering their vision, their purpose, and their dreams. And in this second part of the show, a lot of times I have a star of recovery. But because of the weather here in DMV, we had to pivot, and like good leaders do, like we talked about in that first segment, me and Karen decided we was going to pivot, and she's going to be with me here again to help me do the star of recovery. And I said, since the person that I wanted to be here, and don't worry, we're going to have him in our next episode, and that first episode in February, hopefully. So I said, well, we could take this second half, and we can talk about me. Since I'm a person of long-term recovery myself, it's something that's helped me to change my life. And like I said, I wanted to meet at that intersection of healing, hope, and having a good time. And it came to me one day, that I could start a podcast and I could start talking about things that were important, that I'm passionate about. So I said, hey, why not? Why don't we just meet at that intersection, invite people on, and I think we can have a good time and give people a positive message as well around recovery, because all of us, whether you went through recovery yourself or whether it's a family member, we all are touched by trials and tribulations in life. And so I think it's important that we have positive messages out there and people that we can go to and people that we can network with. And sometimes it's a show like Recover the Ball or something like that you could tune into. And we can create these safe and sober spaces for folks to just enjoy themselves, let their hair down, and at the same time get a message of hope and hang out in the end zone of hope, peace, and prosperity and whatnot. So we're going to get into this second segment, and I want to welcome Karen back to the second part of the show. Welcome back, Karen. Thanks for
thank you.
helping a brother out in this second segment.
Yes. I love this. When you first told me about this whole concept, let's just break it down. I was like,
sure.
Recover the Ball with Cowboy Chris. Of course, you're thinking all football because recover the ball, somebody fumbled, whatever.
Right.
And so you recovering the ball, so that's what I was thinking, recover the ball with Cowboy Chris. And then when you was like, no, the second half is about recovering, what you recovering from, your dreams,
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's just powerful, especially for like a talk show, sports talk show anyway. Because most sports talk show, you're showing your toughness. It's all about the grind and grit, so to be able to sit now and talk about that vulnerability part of us, that's just awesome that you're bringing that to the platform. So I have never seen no sports show of this type, of this magnitude, where now you want to say, hey, let's be real. Let's just open up and talk about that real part of who we are,
No doubt.
because, it's nice when you can sit down with the boys and, you all talking to sports and we talking smack, talking trash, as you say.
Right.
But now let's get deep. How deep are you willing to go? So if you come on this show, just know you're going to get deep, because, what are you recovering for? So, and then when you told me your story, you're recovering and, yourself,
Yes,
I was like,
indeed.
wow, because that's every day.
That's every day.
Yeah, so people got to understand that that's every day, no matter what you're recovering from. It is an everyday process. It's an everyday step.
No doubt.
And you don't never take take it for granted.
Not at all.
Not
at all. That's why I had it incorporated in the show. I was like, it's funny. I watched a lot of the Cowboys content creators. Shout out to the Roundtable and a lot of the YouTubers that I like to watch. And I really enjoy it and whatnot. I really enjoy watching it. But then, sometimes I was thinking to myself, it's just like, and I like recovery too. I like having those conversations. And, I know I'm beating the horse, as they say, in terms of meeting at that intersection. But, I really thought about myself, and just like my story and just what I've been through and just how, like, I've been in recovery now for 9 years. I'm a person of long-term recovery, as we like to say, and I've been doing this professionally. I work with some nonprofits. I like to shout out DC Recovery Community Alliance and also Treehouse Enterprises. Those are some nonprofits here in the DMV area that are really helping people, no matter where they find themselves in the, in whatever phase of addiction they're in. Whether, we do events around prevention, we do harm reduction. We hand out like things like Narcan. Fentanyl is a big deal nowadays. And so a lot of people are overdosing within our communities and things like that. And then we also, help people to get into treatment because, sometimes, we hit that moment and we got to go get some help from someplace else. And so, but a big part of where I've been working at is helping people to sustain it once they've gone through, that healing process that they want to. Sometimes they need somebody to talk to. And that's really what a peer recovery coach does. It's like, that person that you can sit down with and get vulnerable with and say, hey, this is what my day was like. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And this is what's going on with me, and I need to talk to somebody. And sometimes sometimes you can't talk to your family. You know what I mean? You need sometimes that objective person to get with who can help you, kind of sort through those emotions that you're going through. And so, I said, man, and I wanted to promote some of these organizations and bring some of them people on and have them tell their stories about what they've been through and some of the programs that they got so people know you don't have to walk this walk by yourself. There's and that was a big thing for me. When I think about my story, I'll share a little bit about what my story is and what happened with me was, I guess I'll say, well, as I just said, I've been in recovery now for 9 years, but like 9 years ago, even before that, I'll say, my challenge was alcohol. That was what my big challenge was. I got all through life, I never really messed with the stuff. I was kind of like never really messed with it. But then as life went on, I got married, had a family, and life became challenging. You know what I'm saying? We know what, life is like once you get grown and you think things, supposed to go your way and they're not going your way. You get a little frustrated. Yeah. And so, I wanted to find a way to kind of alleviate the stress from the day, from taking care of the kids and from, taking care of my family. And, I'm a big helpful person, so I help a lot of people in my community, but I didn't know how to, relax and just, I wasn't going to my friends and family and having that time to just, chill or let them know what was going on in my mind. So, and I grew up in a family that liked to party, that liked to, every Friday, Saturday, we were either going over somebody's house or somebody was coming over our house. And usually in those environments, we were playing spades, people were talking junk, but, alcohol was involved, you know what I mean? And so for me, it was like, I don't think I consciously thought, that's where I needed to go to, but I started hanging down. I went to this bar one time and, I'm a kid of the 70s, so I grew up on hip hop and go-go and things like that. And so they were playing a lot of the music that I grew up on. I was like, oh, this is nice. And so, I'm going to the bar and I didn't consider myself a drinker, you know what I mean? But, before I know it, I was tossing them back, real easy like, you know what I mean? And, and it's funny in recovery, they talk about, you never know when you're going to cross that invisible line, you know what I mean? And so I was going on, and, I was going to the bar every night. And then, what was it? Then when I really started beginning to realize, that I had a challenge was when I didn't need to go out to have a drink. Say first I was the weekend warrior, as we like to say, you know what I mean? Yes. You just, go, I'll just have a little bit on the weekend, that type of thing. But then I knew when it was, I was, it got to a point where it was like I couldn't really start my day without getting me a little something to, get going and whatnot. And I was just like, and shout out to my dad, he had this challenge as well, but he had stopped drinking. I saw him, to put down the drink and get his life together. So kind of like in the back of my mind, I thought that, it's not too bad. I'll be all right. You know what I mean? But then as time went on, it was like, I lost one job. Then I lost another job. And people who know me, I work hard, you know what I'm saying? And it went from 1 year, I knew it was being a challenge when it went from 1 year, I was an all-star. People at my job was getting awarded and things like that. It's, oh, we love being around Chris, to, what's going on with him? I couldn't do anything right. And that's when I realized that, that's how my higher power was talking to me. He was kind of letting me know, like, something's not, this thing that you think you're doing and you think things are going smooth, they're really not, Chris. You might want to take a look at what you're doing. And so during that process and during that journey, I was like, okay, I need to stop. And so I remember that day, my godmother called me and she was just like, Chris, they're looking for you. And she was talking about my job. But when I heard her voice that day, it was a lot deeper than just the job. I felt like, my family was looking for me, even though I was right there in the house. I felt like my friends were looking for me, even though I was right there in their presence. You know what I mean? And I was like, okay, God, I hear you. You know, I need to make a change. I need to make a switch. And so, ironically enough, I saw 1-800 number, called it up. They told me where some meetings were and things like that. And so I was like, you know what? Let me just go ahead. And, you know, that was a big moment for me, you know, because I'm like somebody that likes, you know, I could do it myself. I'm going to be all right. You know what I mean? And, you know, I'm the oldest of my brothers and sisters. And really, I was the only child for the first 12 years. So, you know, that sort of independent, you know, way of being is, you know, it's in me. So sometimes it's hard for me to, you know, ask for help and whatnot. You know what I mean? But that was, you know, one of the most courageous things I think I've ever did in my life was just to ask somebody for help. And that's what really got the ball rolling. And it started me on this journey that's just, man, it's just been phenomenal ever since. I met some outstanding people, and through my own journey, I met some people that do this professionally. They said, hey, Chris, you want to do some recovery coaching? And I was like, well, what's that? And when I looked at it, I'm a person, I like, you know, positive thinking. You know, back in the day, you know, I would look at Ayanna Van Zandt, Tony Robbins, Les Brown, people like that always had that positivity, or would take you on a journey of self-reflection and doing an inventory to see where you are in life. And, you know, I like that thing. I have an affinity for it anyway. And so I was like, oh, this is just like what I like to do anyway, but it's centered around recovery. Let me just go ahead and, you know, rock out with it. You know what I mean? And so, you know, that's what kind of got me on it in a professional sense, and started working with nonprofits and started seeing other people on this journey. And then the big part about it was I realized I don't have to do this by myself. And the message is to get with other people and let them know they don't have to do this by themselves either. So, you know, that's one of my recovery stories that I like to talk about, just in terms of when we talk about recovery from like illness and recovery from substance use. That's like my personal story. And yeah, so that's what kind of got me in it. And, you know, a big part of why I had to use recovery as part of this show. It's like, yeah, I like to talk football and have a good time, but at the same time, I think it would be I would be doing an injustice not to, you know, share this other side of me, to be like, you know, because, you know, it's funny, for a long time, I was like, I didn't get any help because I thought it looked a certain way. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like, you know, I said, oh, well, I don't have a problem because I hadn't lost my home yet. You know what I mean? Oh, I don't have no problem because, you know, I'm still going to work. You know what I mean? That type of thing. What they call that functional.
Functional alcoholic. Yes,
right, exactly,
yes,
exactly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
So I was like, hey, you know, since being in recovery, it told me like it could look a myriad of ways. And what I said to myself was like, okay, I get to make Recover the Ball an all recovery network. Because sometimes, you know, you may not be struggling with substances or something like that. I know I have some friends that have gone through cancer and gone through things like that. I have family that have gone through that, and they're recovering from that. And they don't have to feel alone either. You know what I mean? So I said, let's make this an all recovery network where people can come and have a good time and get a message of hope. You know what I'm saying? A message of, you know, peace and prosperity, as we talk about. And so, yeah, you know, like that's my personal recovery story. And yeah, so when I met you and I saw a lot of the positive things you've been doing in the community, I was like, oh, and you had this beautiful studio and you giving positive messages. You have shows that you do. And I'm like, oh, here God is again, working in my favor to connect with people that are giving messages of hope and love and peace. And I need to connect with that so we can let more people know, you know, you don't got to do this by yourself, you know?
I like it. I love it. And I guess to share my recovery right now, just recovering from loss, you know, loved ones, you know, because sometimes, you know, when we don't talk about that can put us in
grief.
deep depression. And, you know, just, you know, because everybody always just looking at me, how you do it? I was like, I was 1 foot in and 1 foot out of the sanity. So I had to lean on the Lord and he leaned back. So that's just, you know, what I just say about recovery, because, you know, I lost my mom. It was just devastating, you know, it wasn't expected. And then then I found out my husband had stage 4 lung cancer, you know, so I was like, wow. So, you know, and then after that, you know, my sister just passed suddenly. And then my cousin, who's like my daughter, passed away. So it's just like boom, 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 bam. And they was like, Karen, you always just look. I'm like, oh, but I'm recovering. You know, grief is recovery. You know,
it is.
And it's a process. You know, and that's what I tell people. And And just the fact that, recognizing where I'm at, and I think and that's where any recovery, you have to recognize where you are in your process,
man.
and trust the process.
Yes.
And that's just
Get
what
honest.
Get
honest with yourself.
And that's one part, and especially for me, I just think, that's one part of death that we don't talk about, the ones who hear, that, I mean, man, it challenges you mentally,
no doubt.
when you lose your loved ones like that, and especially for me, and it was a trigger down effect, and I just had to be real. When people ask, I'm like, you just don't know. My walk is 1 foot in and 1 foot out of insanity, because your heart just hurts so bad, and you just like be like, why not me? You can go there and be like, gosh, and especially with my mom. My mom was my everything. That's the only one gonna love you unconditionally. And I was like, oh my God, that the hurt was just so deep. And then I had to realize, understand, God never make a mistakes.
Not at all.
And this is just a part of life. And how we deal with it, how we come over on the other side is what's going to make us, and make us greater, and this is part of our greatness.
It is.
It's going through challenges.
It's going through something. That's
yes,
right.
because you don't even know, you ain't even at the potential of your greatness until you done been through something,
That's right.
and coming on the other side of it.
Yes.
So I'm here to tell you, and that's just real talk. That's real recovery right there. And then knowing that it's an everyday process, and so, and then when I found out my husband had stage 4 lung cancer, and I just looked at God, I was like, wow. I said, now I know why I had to experience my mom death, and that just out of nowhere, because I was saying with hers, it was more devastating because I didn't expect it to happen at the time that it did. And I was like, and that put me in a process to get ready for a much more mourning death, because now I know my husband got stage 4 lung cancer. So that in that process, you're nursing someone to death. And so psychologically, how do you stay fit and strong for that person and for yourself? Because we can't walk around every day, oh, Lord, when it's going to happen? Oh, Lord, death is coming. No, life is still here.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. My father went through the same thing.
Life is here. Life is still coming. And I know that was the odds because, with stage 4 lung cancer, that's like 6 months, and my husband lived 2 years. And I know it was because of our mindset, and that's just real talk,
It is.
So
that's so interesting that you shared that, because as you were sharing that, what you went through with your husband, because my father passed from lung cancer also,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So,
and it's, when you said that, because when I tell my story, when I tell my recovery story, a lot of times I remember it was from his passing that I remember when my drinking began to escalate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's it took a while before I got to the, to my bottom, but I specifically remember having those thoughts of, you said grief is a process. I didn't know how to grieve right. I can remember not, crying, but I would only cry in my dreams. But I remember when I would have a little bit of the sauce, it made all those emotions go away. You know what I mean?
It
numbed me out.
Pain.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. So, even, loss can do that. It can make people go into depression. It can make these, turn to substance, whatever it is.
Exactly.
If you're not real with where it's at. So even now I had, and the holidays can be hard for people. I had my dear friend, 2 of my dear friends, one lost her husband right now during this holiday season, and the other one lost her mom on Christmas Day. So, just want to be that experience voice for them, to show them, you can come through. And then, and being real with them, they was like, Karen, I'm like, it's 20 years for my mom, when she passed away, and then 16 for my husband, 4 years for my sister, and 3 years for my daughter. So it's like, even now I have a moment, and I let that moment happen.
Yes.
And so that's why I'm saying you're recovering every day, because you think, and that's why I wanted to even tell the bigger years of my mom and my husband, because they was right there together. Even in 20 years, even in 16 years, do I still have my moment? Oh yeah. It's real.
Yes, indeed.
And so I allow myself to have the moment, but what I do, I don't stay there.
Right.
And so
when I do, at the end of that, I have to end on a happy note.
you know, so I don't, you know, because I don't stay in that place, you know, I give it a cry, I allow myself to do it if I need to cry, whatever, but I'm going to end on a happy thought and make sure that I'm laughing and see myself in a silly place with them, you know, of a moment of memory. And I know it's still the same way we're recovering from substance abuse. You know, at times that urge can still just come out. And you'll be like, wow, where did that come from? And you got to recognize that and go through that moment like,
knowing what your kryptonite is.
Oh,
yeah.
Where did that come from? Okay, okay. Let me shake that off. Yeah. And then, you know, and share it and tell somebody. You know what I'm saying? And because that way, that's the way of holding yourself accountable.
How about that?
You know, because when you don't want to hold yourself accountable, no matter what kind of recovery you coming from, if you don't hold yourself accountable,
that's right.
You're going to go
through this by yourself, people. You have to do it by yourself.
Yeah, hold yourself accountable, you know, because if not, you're going to go down that slippery slope, and that's you know, that's what you don't want to do.
Yeah.
You know, so just sharing, holding myself accountable, me being real with my emotion and not being so embarrassed to share.
Yeah, indeed.
You know, embarrassment got to go out the window.
No doubt.
When you're in recovery, you know, embarrassment, there's no such thing, because you don't even know, by sharing your story or being honest with somebody how you're strengthening them, or they may remember or something to say. Because I know one time me and Mr. Lee was talking about it. He was like, oh, I need to share this with my friend, what you just said, because they grieving, you know, so, and you just never know. But when we keep it all closed in and bottled in, and then, you know, our minds start to telling us what to do, you know, because now we trying to, like you said, self-heal ourselves. Self-medicate, self-heal ourselves, and, you know, and I just always say I just want to be accountable, you know, and just be real with my emotions, be real with my feelings, even now, and, you know, just even with my friends, just being real about what the process is.
And that's what real friendship is about.
Oh, yeah. So, so I'm just listening to you like, wow, you know, I'm just thankful for you, because I do have a friend that, you know, that I just think borderline, you know, is challenging with the drinking, you know, so just to hear you say that, it's just like, wow, you know, so it's just kind of, you know, touching home with me, you know, because they like family, you know. And we're
going to have in the chat, folks, some numbers there that you can call to get that help. You know, one of the things that we missed on the in the first segment was the highlight reel. We were talking about, you know, Dak Prescott and how he's a mental health advocate.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And you know how big that is to me. I love that, you know, when it comes to that part of it, you know.
Most definitely.
Yeah. So, you know, every time I like that part, you're going to have the highlight reel where we highlighting someone that's doing great things outside of just the gift he have in sports. I like the gift that he give back to mental health, because he had a brother that committed, you know, attempted, you know, died by suicide. So, you know.
He dealt with the loss of his mom.
Right,
you know,
and the loss of his mom. So just the grief and the mental health is, because it is. And recovery, no matter what you're recovering from, it all starts. It's here. It's mental.
I'm so glad it's become more, I guess, I hate to say trendy or whatever, but for people of color,
more open,
you know, so African Americans are really starting to, you know, get that help. You know, now with the technology that's there, you know, you don't have to worry about necessarily going to an office. You know, there's so many ways that you can get the help you need, and I think that's, you know, so important and whatnot that we have those.
The first thing you got to do is just learn to put down the shame, and I think, and you know, because you ain't gonna you're not gonna see any kind of help.
Guilt.
If you don't put down the shame or the guilt, you know, but more so for us, it's the shame, because even in your story, I heard you say what people gonna think. You know, we got to put down the shame. Once we learn how to put down the shame, then we will seek more help. And how you put down the shame is doing what we're doing now. We talking about it and giving a person a safe haven place to come and feel like, you know what, it's time for me to let this go. It's time for me not to hold it in by myself anymore, that I can't share. And that's the only way we break down stigmas. That's the only way we give people, you know, a safe haven place that they don't feel shameful or embarrassed about it, you know. And Ashley, you know, I'm just glad to say, if I can take this moment, vision and purpose, we big on mental health. We're producing, Wesley and I doing a big documentary on mental health. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, so I'm
Awesome.
telling you, if you want to know,
That's
you
better.
stay in touch with, Cowboy Chris. And
I'm going to put you on.
because it's going to be May the 31st, Friday, May the 31st, Prince George's Community College here.
Awesome.
And Prince George's picked us up, and we're going to
Awesome,
release it in a
awesome.
theater hall. And
Yes.
it's about to be big. It's about
That
to
is
be
beautiful.
big.
That is beautiful.
Yes. So I am excited about that.
I'm excited for you. Indeed. This is a great episode. One of the other things I wanted to talk about in terms of recovery is, and you've really helped me to recover in another kind of way.
Oh, really?
And I'm going to tell you this story real quick as we're wrapping up, as we're getting close to the end of the show.
I love stories.
So what had happened was,
what happened was?
when I graduated high school,
Okay.
I said, I'm going to go to college and I want to major in communications and broadcasting and things like that. I said, I think that's what I want to do. I want to show really what I wanted to do. And shout out to North Carolina A&T State University, Aggie Pride, for all my Aggies out there and whatnot. We always got to represent the Aggies. But when I got there, had a great time at A&T, learned a lot. But on the first day there, I changed my major. I went to the business. I somehow wound up into the business department, and the dean of business was like, "Nah, don't be in communications. You ain't gonna make no money over there." So I let that fear set in, and I was like, "Oh no, no, I don't want to do that. I like doing that stuff, but I don't want to do it." Fast forward, get a little bit older in my 20s, and my mom, she had the penny saver one day, and she was like, "Chris, they got a broadcast school right here in the DMV, the African American Media Incubator." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go do that." So I signed up for the course, got a free ride, and did it. And did a good, and did that. Graduated, was getting ready to go on the road, getting ready to get on the road with it then. And for some reason I stopped. I think I was on a spiritual journey and I kind of found religion at that moment. So I was like, nah, I don't want to do it. Fast forward with all the technology happening. And then I come here and get on the show with you and Lee and start seeing what you had set up, Vision and Purpose Media Production. I was like, here God is again saying, Chris, you can recover the ball again that you had back when you were 18 years old and get into, media production once again. And so I want to thank you, Karen, so much and give you your flowers. You are doing wonderful work here at Vision and Purpose Media Productions. And I'm so glad to be here. Our time is wrapping up, ladies and gentlemen. We got to get ready to go. But I so thank you for tuning into this first episode.
Yes.
The second and fourth Monday of every month, you get Recover the Ball with Cowboy Chris. Tune in February. We're going to have another great episode with the Recovery Star and the Cowboy Star. Thanks for tuning in. Tune in next month. Thank you. Peace.